Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're doing a Salamangreat deck profiles. This deck actually just recently topped, so I figured I would go ahead and do an update of this deck because this deck is absolutely crazy in what it can actually pull off, and is really amazing that we actually got Firewall Dragon back finally with the way it should have been to begin with the errata effect of once per turn, and locking it into Cyverse monsters just totally fixes the card. And I'm actually excited that I finally got to use this playmat on the channel because previously this card was actually banned and you couldn't use it, but now that it got errated, I can actually play this card. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card to the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month through Patreon along with test hands. And definitely give us a like on the video and make sure that you subscribe to the channel. I even busted out the ghost rare new Firewall Dragon for you guys for this particular video, and it is so pretty, I have to say. There you go, there's a pretty view of it. So let's go ahead and see what we can do in this deck. So first off, we're going to be playing a single copy of Gazelle because it's at 1. It's probably arguably the best card in the entire deck. It has the ability if a Salamangreat monster is sent to the graveyard except Gazelle, then you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a Salamangreat monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is pretty good to be able to do that. I love this card in this deck. I really wish it was more than 1, but I understand why it's at 1 because it's so powerful. We then play a single copy of Jack Jaguar. Jack Jaguar I just think is a 1 of in this particular build. You can get away with 2 of them, but I like 1. That if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflicts piercing damage, and if you control a Salamangreat link while this card's in the graveyard, you can target another Salamangreat in the graveyard and shuffle that card in the deck. And you special summon this card to a zone that a link Salamangreat link monster points to, and you only affect this card once per turn. It's really good to help you link climb, and it's a really powerful card in this deck as well. I play a single copy of Falco. Falco is also really good too because if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Salamangreat spell or trap in the grave and set that target to your field, which can get your copy of Roar or Rage or Circle back to your side of the field, which is really cool. Or even Will of the Salamangreats, or even Will of the Salamangreats or Sanctuary. So you have a lot of targets in this deck to be able to grab. And it also has the ability to special summon itself out of the graveyard, because you can target a Salamangreat monster you control and return to that target to the hand. And if you do, you special summon this card to your field, which can be pretty helpful, especially if you normal summon a monster that you can just immediately special summon back. It's pretty easy to use this effect. We then play a single copy of Salamangreat Foul. I love Foul as a 1 of because it helps me out a lot in this deck. You can change it out for a Jack Jaguar if you want to, but I think it's a good 1 of because if a Salamangreat monster is normal or special summoned to your field, then you can special summon this card right behind it. So it's kind of like Kage Tokage a little bit, and it also has the ability that you can once per turn send a Salamangreat card from your hand or field to the graveyard to target a set spell or trap your opponent controls, and that set target cannot be activated this turn, which is an okay effect, but basically what you're looking for on this card is the special summon effect to be able to link climb. I then play double Spinny. Spinny's really good because it's easy to special summon to your field. If you control a Salamangreat, you can discard this card to target a monster on the field. It gains 500, and then also if this card is in the graveyard, then you can special summon this card but banish when it leaves the field, which is pretty cool. If you control a Salamangreat monster other than Spinny, you can special summon it back. I then play double Foxy. Foxy is a 2 of. I used to play this card as a 3 of, but I've kind of like opened my eyes and realized no, Foxy's just a 2 of. It's a great card, but you just need to. And it has the ability that when this card is normal summoned, then you can excavate the top 3 of your deck, and if you do, you get to add 1 excavated Salamangreat card from your hand, and you shuffle the rest back in the deck. And if this card is in your graveyard, and if a face-up spell card is on the field, spell or trap is on the field, you can discard a Salamangreat, special summon this card back. So basically your entire deck is playing out of the graveyard, just to bring that to your guys' attention. So basically all of these can special summon themselves back, except I think Gazelle can't special summon back from graveyard. These all special summon back from graveyard, which is extremely powerful. I'm playing single copy of Prohibit Snake. Prohibit Snake is so good, and I'm amazed that a lot of people have looked over this card at how powerful it actually is. This card is super helpful for this deck though. So basically what this card does is at the start of the damage step, if a Cyverse Link monster battles an opponent's monster, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to return that monster to the hand. And then when your Cyverse monster destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, while this card's in the grave, you can banish from your graveyard 1 level 4 lower Cyverse monster and add this card to your hands. You're constantly recurring this card and keeping to use its effect. I love this card. I then play 2 copies of Lady Debug. I'm just playing 2 because I already play enough normal summons in the deck, and when it's normal summon, I get to add a level 3 or lower Cyverse monster from my deck to my hand, which there's a lot of them in this deck that you can add. You can add Gazelle, you can add your copy of Spinny, you can add Foxy, you can add your Prohibit Snake. There's just so many different copies of cards in this deck that you can add off this effect. I then play 3 copies of Flame Buffalo. Flame Buffalo is really good too. I really don't understand why people think that you got to play either Ladybug or Flame Buffalo. I think that playing both of them is necessary. You either need to pick 3 Ladybug or 3 Buffalo. Then basically what this card does is if the face of card leaves the field, you can discard a Cyverse and you draw 2. That's really good because you can just normal summon this card, link into Baylink, search with Baylinks, and then discard a card and draw 2 on top of it. That's pretty busted to be able to do. We then play 3 copies of Parallel Exceed. Parallel Exceed is basically here because it's going to help you go into rank 4s and link climb, because if you link summon and this card's in your hand, you can special summon this card to a link to a zone and link monster points to as a level 4, and then special summon an additional Parallel Exceed from the deck, which is going to be super helpful. But it also becomes level 4. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom just to round out the monsters. It's really a great hand trap in this particular deck to help you out a lot against your opponent. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Foolish Burial because all of our monsters pretty much react in the graveyard, so this card's really helpful just to be able to load the graveyard for all sorts of different plays. 1 copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is going to be able to negate hand traps, which is super helpful in a deck like this. 1 copy of Salamangreat Sanctuary. This card is searchable off your Baylinks and is really good because you can, when you link summon a Salamangreat monster and you use another Salamangreat monster you control with the same name as the entire material, you can do that, which is pretty good. It also has the ability that during damage calculation, if your monster battles, you can pay 1,000 life points. Targeting monster you control, it makes attack 0, and if you gain life points equal to the attack of that monster, which is pretty good. You don't use that effect all that much, but basically this card is here to basically go into your Tensei summons or your Rebirth summons to link summon into another copy of your Sunlight Wolf and another copy of your Heat Leo to overlay on top of them to get their bonus effects. We then play a single Circle because Circle is a searcher because it has the ability to add a Salamangreat monster from your deck to your hand, or target a Salamangreat link monster you control that was link summoned using monster with the same name as a material, and that link monster is unaffected by monster effects for the rest of the turn. This card is ridiculously powerful, and I could actually see this card going back to 2 on the next list. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the card that they decide to put back at 2. We then play 2 copies of Will of the Salamangreats. Will of the Salamangreats is really good. This card is borderline Soul Charge because during your main phase, you can special summon a Salamangreat monster in your hand or grave, but you can also send this card from your field to the graveyard to target 1 Salamangreat link monster you control that was link summoned using a monster with the same name as a material. And you can special summon monsters from your hand and or graveyard in defense position up to the number of that monster's link rating. So for example, if I target a copy of Baylinks, I get 1, Sunlight Wolf is 2, and then if I target a Heat Leo, I get to summon 3 monsters from my graveyard, which can get me into some insane link climbs in this deck. I then play 2 copies of Desires. I don't want to play more than 2 Desires in this deck because I feel like I'm going to banish too many of my combo pieces. You want to burn through the combo pieces like your Gazelle before you resolve a Desires, because Desires is here just to get you extenders. That is important to note about this deck. Don't start your turn by activating Desires. You will probably regret it if you do. And so I really just would not do that. I would go ahead and resolve my combos and then use the Desires. Or if I know my opponent has an Ash, I will use the Desires first to bait the Ash, because this card is kind of important for the deck to grab cards to get you extension plays, but it is not the end-all be-all of the deck. I then play 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone just to deal with your opponent's back row. This card is really, really good for this deck to be able to just pop back row and just deal with stuff like Mystic Mine. And then I play 3 copies of Signet Mining as well. The Signet Mining is really good because you get to send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, which all of your copies of your Cyverse monsters just resolve in the graveyard pretty much. And then you get to add a level 4 or lower Cyverse monster in your deck to your hand, which can be so many different cards in this deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're playing a couple of traps. We're playing Double Roar, which Double Roar is really good. Basically, this is Infernity Barrier. When a spell trap or monster effect is activated, you control a Salamangreat link monster, negate the activation to destroy that target, or destroy that card. And then when this card is in the graveyard, if a Salamangreat link monster is link summoned to your field using a monster with the same name as a material, then you can set this card back to your field. So it's a recurring Infernity Barrier, which is pretty good. We then play 2 copies of Rage. Rage is really good in this deck too. You get to send a Salamangreat monster from your hand or field to the graveyard, target card on the field, destroy it, or target a Salamangreat link monster you control that was link summoned using a monster with the same name as the material, and destroy cards your opponent controls up to the link rating of that monster. I've always said double roar, double rage is the way to go because you're going to get the most value out of the deck by playing double roar, double rage. We then play 3 copies of Impermanence. Impermanence is really good. This can be changed out for Nibiru if you want to play Nibiru. It can be changed out for Ghost Bell if you want to change it out for Ghost Bell. I just wanted to handle stuff like Anaconda with this card, and so I really feel like the copy of Impermanence is important for me because I can just drop this against an Anaconda and essentially end my opponent's turn. So that's why I play this card as a 3 of. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Firewall Dragon. Yes, we are playing the new Ghost Rare, awesome looking Firewall Dragon, and I'm really excited to show you guys this card. So what this card does, if you guys are unfamiliar with the new effect of Firewall Dragon, it takes 2+ monsters to link summon it like always, and then once while this card is facing on the field, quick effect, you can target monsters on the field and or graveyard up to the number of co-linked cards and return them to the hand. And if a monster that this card points to is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Cyverse monster, which used to just be any monster, from your hand, and you can only see effect of Firewall Dragon once per turn, which it didn't have that hard once per turn on it before either, which is the new errata effect. So this card is really good still. It's just a 1 of now, which you don't need any more than 1. It should have been the way that was released, but they didn't. And now it's perfect. This card is perfectly balanced and it's really, really good still. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker. Access Code Talker gives us additional pops against our opponent, so it's really, really good. This deck is basically Access Code Talker Turbo, and so this card is really insane. You really do actually need to play it in this deck. Like a lot of times I tell you guys you can play like Borreload, Boral Sword, but this is one time I'm going to tell you you really actually do need Access Code. We then play double Heat Leo. Heat Leo is very important in this deck because if this card is link summoned, you get to target 1 card your opponent's spell and trap card zone, shuffle it into the deck, and then once per turn during your main phase, if this card is link summoned using a Heat Leo as a material, then this card it gains the ability that you can target 1 face-up monster on the field and 1 monster in the graveyard, and the attack of the first target becomes the attack of the second target, which is pretty good because you can target your opponent's monsters and make them have the attack of a Balinx, which is 500, which is pretty funny. We then play, or if they've Ash Blossomed, you can target the Ash Blossom as well, which is really funny. We then play 3 copies of Sunlight Wolf. Sunlight Wolf is so important to this deck because if this card is normal or special summoned to a zone, or if monster is special summoned or normal summoned to a zone this card points to, you get a fire monster from your graveyard to your hand, but for the rest turn, you cannot normal or special summon monsters with the added monster's name. And during the main phase, if you control this card that was link summoned using Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf as a material, you can add a Salamangreat spell or trap from your graveyard to your hand, which is going to get you Roar, Rage, Will, Sanctuary, Circle. Like, there's so many targets for this card, it's ridiculous. We then play 3 copies of Balinx as well. The triple Balinx is really good because this card is going to grab your Sanctuary really quick. You just have to put a level 4 or lower Cyverse monster into this card, so it's pretty easy. Like, pretty much everything in the deck links to Balinx, and it has the ability that you're going to get your copy of your Sanctuary, and also has the ability of a Salamangreat card you control will be destroyed by battle or by card effect. You can banish the card from the graveyard instead, which is super helpful. We then play a single copy of Transcode Talker because it's pretty much walking revival, and it helps you link climb. It's also an earth target because you're basically playing fire and light up here, and then you're going to kind of count the attributes. I believe I play every single attribute in this deck to feed the Access Code Talker, which is really great. So basically what this card does is it has the ability that when this card is co-linked, if it is co-linked, the co-linked monsters gain 500 attack, and also your opponents cannot target those cards with card effects, and then you can target 1 link 3 or lower Cyverse monster in the graveyard and special summon to a zone this card points to, and you cannot special monster the turn you activate this effect except for Cyverse, which we pretty much only play Cyverse in the deck anyways. We then play the same copy of Update Jammer. The Update Jammer is pretty much a win target in the deck. It helps out a little bit because you get to once per turn during your damage calculation. If your Cyverse monster battles, you can activate the effect and negate up all face-up cards on the field until the end of the damage step. And also, it has the ability that if this card, or if an opponent's monster is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as a link material, the link monster can make a second attack during each battle phase, which can be really helpful for access code, being able to attack multiple times. We then play the same copy of Splash Mage because it's so good in this deck, and it's also a water target, and it lets you target Cyberse in the graveyard and special summon it to your field, which can help you climb into a transcode and then revive back this card to link summon into a copy of your access code, which is really good. We then play the same copy of Lingribo. Lingribo is really good too. It's a dark target, so you're basically playing light, earth, wind, water, dark, and fire. Like, you play a lot of fire, so you play a lot of the attributes, which is really good. And it also helps you out with traps, because when an opponent activates a trap card, you can quick effect tribute this card and negate the activation of that card if you do banish it, which is pretty good. And then we play a single copy of Abyss Dweller as well, because the Abyss Dweller shuts down the graveyard, and it's arguably one of the best rank 4s in the entire game. I will say the only thing I've thought about doing is dropping maybe the update jammer for a copy of Baguska. That's the only thing I've thought about doing in this deck, but everything else is perfect. I really think that this is probably the best build that I've ever built of Salamangreats, and it's super fun. Like, it's really, really fun. And maybe changing out the impermanence for maybe Nibiru if you want to do that. So that's pretty much it, guys, for this deck. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely tell what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. This deck is a deck that I've actually been playing a lot recently, and because of Firewall Dragon coming off the ban list and finally being a balanced card instead of an absolutely crazy card that shouldn't have ever been created. And I'm glad that they finally balanced the card and released a retrain, not a retrain of it, but like a new version of it, so we can actually play the card fairly. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.